something which I found very compelling, but I would like to hear more about it, is this idea that it's a monument, a tomb, and at the same time, it displays what has been a secret. It makes a, so to speak, this unravels, destroys the secrecy of the avant-gardist group. And if I understood you correctly, you explored the tension between those two ambitions, because a tomb, a monument, always contains something which it celebrates, but also withdraws from our gaze, and so to speak, participates in a certain rhetorics of mystery. But at the same time, which is absolutely compelling to me, that the whole idea of the secrecy of the avant-garde group is unraveled in this film. So it's just a question I would like to know more about, this relationship between displaying, destroying the secrecy, and at the same time creating a funeral monument.
First of all, thanks, Rolf. It has to be noted that, of course, this is again a work of art that, even though it has been composed of appropriate material, is very, very carefully and very thoroughly constructed. So it's not an avant-garde gesture in any way that we can see here in this late film by Debord. What you said about the secrecy and the secrecy being displayed, in a way, it's for Debord, at least as I read him, it's an apotropaic measure against the spectacle. So the idea is you can keep this secret, or you can keep this memory, or you can keep this avant-garde, which of course has been lost, has perished, and has been in a way dissolved by Debord himself. You can best keep and guard this secret by displaying it on the outside. So in a way, it's a ruse to make an artwork that in itself incorporates the structure of the spectacle in a way, but by mimicking the structure of the spectacle, also finding a way of escaping it. So not contradicting the spectacle directly, because as we know, when we, contradicting it directly would only lead to a dialectical reintegration of this contradiction in the procedures of the spectacle. So so the idea the Debord has, and also Adorno and Horkheimer have in the dialectics of the Enlightenment, is do it by mimicking this. So it's in a way guarding the secret by displaying it on the outside of the film.
Est-ce qu'il y a une autre question? I have a question about, observation about Canetti's reading you made about Masse und Macht, and this paranoid idea of being absorbed or absorbing. If we extend this idea to the idea of spectacle himself, is this film a kind of reabsorbing object that has the idea to reabsorb spectacle itself?
Yeah, exactly.
So it
That's
is.
how I read it. Yeah.
It is something that is that implies the idea that there are the missing bodies, and you, in your way of presenting the object, you speak about this avant-garde that is missing. But Canetti's idea is that the human is missing, and I think that there is quite a different dimension in this idea.
I'm not sure if something is missing in paranoia. I think there is too much. Yes. There is these people, you have not called for them, and nevertheless they are here, and so you have to do something without them. And what you can do is either recording them, drawing them, and so on, or you can, that would be maybe a schizophrenic way of dealing with it, or you can reabsorb them, try to totalize them. So it's not a missing in the first place. It's only I call it the people is missing in a sense of something we accept as real in our society. But it's also about the bodies. Schreber conceives of these bodies in very, very physical terms. What regards the avant-garde group of the situationists, it's almost like a catalog of the situationists Debord does in girum. So you have the photographs of them, a lot of them, and he partly tells and recalls their stories, particularly of Gilles Livin. So both Debord and Schreber or Canetti, as he reads Schreber, deal with this notion of the group, of the plurality, which is a plurality of distinct individuals, but also of distinct bodies. And so it's about incorporating them. And the way Debord performs his montage operations in girum, they are also really physical operations of montage, like filming, taking fragments of films, inserting them into the body of girum, and also filming the photographs and just transferring them into his work.
Oui.
Merci beaucoup. I was wondering, I was very fascinated by this idea of the structure of the film, of course, somehow deploys really the palindromic structure. But I wondered about the sequence you were showing
At the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, this kind of, as you said, not circular temporality, but mirroring.
Yes.
And if it was
Symmetrical
also,
mirror temporality.
Symmetrical mirroring, but also, as you said, also self-contained, no? Because it's very interesting that in girum, imus is already, the half of the sentence is already both.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, to me it sounds very narcissistic more than paranoid. But anyway, I don't know if this can lead us very far. The question was, but it could be maybe also a question, because it has all the structural features you mentioned. Also in narcissism there is no, you talked about the idea that the time doesn't go by. There is an incorporation. It's fusional in a way, just because the other doesn't exist because it's fusionized. So I don't know. This also can be a discussion. But the question was about the images. So if there's in the visual work of the film, and the visual structure and transformations of the film, of the sequence, or in the whole film that I don't remember well. If you see this structure working also at a visual level, you talked about images because the palindrome is an image, and you can understand it only if you treat it as an image, as you did.
Yeah.
But the other images, the filmic ones, if there's something you can say about this. I know this place. It's fancy.
What do you want me to say about them?
If this structure
the palindromic structure.
Yes, this palindromic or paranoid.
Okay.
If it's somehow reenacted also at the level of the filmic images.
Okay. First of all, to the first question, to the link between narcissism and paranoia. Of course, in Freudian psychoanalysis, there's a very, very strong link between these two. A narcissist neurosis is almost identical at certain stages of Freud's work with paranoia, because in narcissism, the libido is totally contracted to the self, and so the world in a way vanishes, and he has to rebuild from this totalitarian reservoir of the libido, with the subject. So in Freud there is this link very, very clearly and very distinctly you suggested. And the second question regarding the images. Of course, the images are not composed in a way that in the middle of the film there would be an axis, and then you could think of the film as being folded. That would be taking the palindromic structure too literal. I would say. But what I've referred to as palindromic in the film mostly plays on an allegorical level. So you have all these heroes of Hollywood cinema, and the way these fragments, these appropriated fragments Debord uses, it's totally clear that he identifies himself with all these heroes, with Zorro, with the devil. That there's a sympathy, a strong sympathy with the devil in the whole film. So that's palindromic in a way that Debord himself mirrors himself in these images. Like you see this image of the Punta della Dogana in Venice. Venice for Debord, these were the only takes that were actually shot for this film. They went to Venice and they went by boat and then had these shots. And also Venice is, in a way, a metaphor, an allegory for Debord, for this time coming to a standstill. So all these canals that were once rivers, and this floating of time has stopped. So in a way, it's a metaphor for Debord, for an immutable past, which nevertheless can always be repeated. So this mirroring of an immutable past and a distant future to which this film might be directed is also a mirror structure or an palindromic structure, but only in an allegorical way. So I think procedures of allegory are central here in reading these images as palindromic.